Leo Young burned out chasing Instagram growth and rebuilt from scratch by launching Journey with Leo Young, a podcast designed to last. He stopped scripting questions, delayed monetization, and built systems that rewarded consistency over motivation. A real estate investor and founder of Cornell Communities, Leo turned ADHD into an advantage through structure and daily improvement. In this episode of Podcasting Secrets, he explains why consistency beats guest quality and distribution combined, how unscripted interviews lead to better conversations, and why most creators quit before real habits form.
Welcome to the Podcasting Secrets Show, where successful creators share their best stories, secrets, and strategies. I'm your host, Nathan William. Hello, incurable creators. Today's guest is Leo Young, entrepreneur, real estate investor, and host of the Journey with Leo Young, a podcast featuring raw, unfiltered conversations with entrepreneurs who built success the hard way. Leo focuses on real execution, disciplined thinking, and long-term growth over hype. We're excited to dive into his podcasting journey and the lessons behind building with impact. Thanks for being with us today, Leo.
Thanks for having me on, Nathan. Very excited to be here.
So Leo and I just finished an hour-long recording as we're going into this. Leo just interviewed me on his show, and now I'm interviewing Leo on my show. I've never done this before where it's gone back to back like that, but it's kind of a cool strategy. You find two podcasters that have a similar audience and you interview each other for your own shows. And I've seen it done a little bit differently than this. I've seen it where they record one episode together and then they both share the same episode on their podcast. But I like this one too, where one show was talking about my story and now this show is going to be about Leo's story.
Yeah, so, now you're not in the hot seat, and now you get to grill me.
So audience, podcasters that are looking for ways to grow your podcast, this is a great strategy. Learn from Leo and I. Even though this is my first time ever doing it, and I'm definitely not an expert, this is a great strategy. Reach out to podcasters with similar audiences to you and invite them to be on your show and ask if you can be on their show and do a trade. As I interview people on this Podcasting Secrets show, as you know, I ask many of them that question, what's your best growth strategy? And most of them give the same answer. It's to get on other people's shows. And if you're a business owner, you want to get on lots more podcasts and you beg and many times you pay to get on those other podcasts. But if you have a podcast, instead of paying for it, you're a peer and you can trade exposure for exposure. And if you're a business that wants to get on podcasts, the secret is you have a podcast and then you trade exposure with other podcasters.
Yeah, I think two things to hit on there, Nathan. The first off is that, I think just as a business owner, like we can all learn from each other. And, like podcasting, creating on social media, like that's absolutely a business. And I'm just generally very curious as to like what makes people work, how they built their systems, how they got the success that they got. So, just being open-minded, sort of like trading notes in a sense. And, the audience as a consequence from our sort of learning sessions from each other get to learn something of value. So that's always a plus. And the second point is whenever you can, the bartering system is one of the most efficient ways of transacting, right? Because you're not exchanging cash, you're exchanging a favor for a favor. It's like, hey, look, a barber's good at a haircut. You're good at something else. Let's trade, right? Let's find something, some way to make it work. That way you're keeping out Uncle Sam as well, and just being more efficient.
It also strengthens these relationships that you have with people, right? You have people on your team. You're surrounding yourself by people that you're lifting them and they're lifting you. And when you do that, you can't help but just everybody be more successful. It's like all of when the tide rises, all of the ships in the ocean rise with that.
Yeah. And we were talking about this right before we hit record about the concept of ROI, right? I think there's two different ways to view ROI. There's the corporate way to view ROI, and then there's the actual people entrepreneurial way of viewing it. And, what you just described is, us entrepreneurs, like we're all about making each other better, creating goodwill, and sort of the long tail of just putting out good energy out there. And that's something that, the corporate world, like they haven't fully grasped yet. I've been in scenarios where they're like, well, what will this dollar spent get me in terms of ROI? Like, if we're not seeing it in 90 days, we have to reevaluate. And that's just not how you win. And that's why, smaller creators. I mean, look, on social media, like the number of successful corporate accounts versus like regular people like you and I mean, it must be like 90-10 ratio, right? There's a reason why they're not successful, is because they don't know the right give to ask ratio to what you said earlier on our podcast.
Yeah. And there's more to it than that. Like 96% of people today don't trust ads. So if a business creates an ad that says, hey, my product is awesome, buy my product, 96% of people aren't going to trust that. 1% of millennials say that, only 1% say that a compelling ad would make them trust a company more. And so when a business comes on a podcast and does a business podcast that just feels like an ad, it's not going to have trust. It's not going to have credibility. It's not going to achieve the purpose. The businesses, if they're going to do a podcast, they've got to get on as real people that are authentic, real people. And it's not about maximizing the ROI. It's not about, maximizing the amount of ad inventory that I can get on that podcast. It's about giving real value to the audience.
Yeah, I think the less you hold back, the better it will perform, because there's just so much noise nowadays in media and society that we sort of just tune out the things that we've heard already. So that's why, like, the bland ads on, I don't know, that you see on LinkedIn and stuff, they really don't resonate. You scroll right past it. Versus, like, you and I were having a conversation about what's been working in your business, what's worked in my business, how we're viewing content, and this journey that we have together, right?
And that's real.
Exactly.
Okay, so one thing that stood out about you in this interview, and I know we haven't even told anybody about your show yet and what you do. We're going to get there, I promise. One thing that stood out to me about you in our previous interview was how you talked about systems and processes. And would you consider yourself a system and process guy?
Yes, I say systems by necessity.
Okay.
So I think me as a person, I have, just racing thoughts, like, ADHD tendencies and stuff. That just means, like, my mind.
And a lot of successful entrepreneurs are that way, right? That's not
Yeah.
a bad thing. If you leverage that right, it's very
Exactly.
effective for an entrepreneur.
And the reason why, like, I usually don't, bring up ADHD is because, like, I think people name it, like, they label it wrong. It's not a disorder. It's just like, it's a way that you are. Everyone has characteristics that make them unique. And, for me, it just, and with many other people, it's just that we have a lot of thoughts that come along. But, like, how do you turn the thoughts into progress? I mean, ideas are cheap. Execution is key, right? So you need systems, you need good team members around you to make sure these things are actually implemented, that you're following through. How do you measure it? You just build these systems. And it was through necessity, through, 15 long years of, like, okay, like, this sheet of paper is super messy. How do I make sense of it? Level up into the next thing, level up. And then now, I have, like, Notion dashboards, Asana, all that stuff. And, we're using the EOS system to just try to keep our business humming along and, like, give us good visibility as to what's going on.
Yeah. So systems and processes helping your business. Why do you think it's so critical that entrepreneurs have these systems and processes? And what can an entrepreneur expect when they make that investment into getting the right systems and processes?
Yeah. What gets measured gets improved.
Yeah,
And
I fully agree.
Yeah. The beautiful part of being an entrepreneur is that you have to level up yourself so that you can become a better leader to your team, so that you can create a better vehicle for transacting in the economy, right? Because you have to have something of value to have someone be like, well, I value your product more than this dollar in my hand. So let's transact. So you have to really level up yourself. And to create systems is the only way that you're able to have your ideas translate to another. Because how many times have you asked yourself this or caught yourself saying this? How are we doing? People ask you this and you're like, well, we're doing good. What does good mean? Right? Like, what are you measuring? And what's the time frame? How are you improving? What's the plan? So you need to have a lot of these, the infrastructure in place.
Yeah. Yeah. That's how it becomes replicable. That's how you can have a life and go on vacation and go home, right? You don't
Yeah.
have to do everything when you have systems and processes. We were talking about on the previous show about how I brought in, we were having a churn problem in our services business. Our churn level was too high, too many customers leaving us. And so the solution was to bring in a systems and process person, and she did a phenomenal job. Her name is Crystal, and she implemented amazing systems and processes that brought our churn down to an average of below 2%, over several months of period of time. So it's worth it, right? There's very tangible results by getting the right systems and processes in place.
And I think a lot of a mistake a lot of people make is who, not how. So it's a matter of getting the right person in place with the right incentive structures, with the right ways to measure their output, rather than like, okay, I got to teach myself how to code now. Because I've definitely felt victim in that, right? I mean, early in my entrepreneurial journey, I was like, I have to do everything myself. So I literally taught myself how to code. I failed 3 times. I mean, I did like learn the fundamentals, and like now I can actually coordinate with like web developers and tell them what I want. But still, I mean, it was like time wasted that I could have been, working on what I do best, right? I think as an entrepreneur, you want to think, where's your highest leverage? It's like, well, what's your limited time and resources best used at? Is it finding more deals, creating systems, building a good team, attracting the A players, things like that?
Yeah. And when we don't know how to do something, like you were saying, the answer is who, right? Instead of trying to figure out how, figure out who. I love that. Thanks for teaching.
Yeah.
All right. Let's dive into what we should have done at the beginning of this interview. Let's talk about you. Can you tell us, Leo, about you and your business? And don't talk about your podcast yet. That'll be the next question.
Okay. Sure. So I'm founder and managing partner at Cornell Communities. We are a real estate investment firm. We buy and operate mobile home parks, and we have a mission that's twofold. One, we want to improve the communities that we operate in, and 2, obviously bring strong risk-adjusted returns to our investors in a completely hands-off way. So a lot of people, they like to partner with us on deals because they're crushing it in life, but their money's just sitting in the bank. What's it doing? And maybe it's I don't know, earning a couple of percent in the bank account, or at most like 7% in the S&P or something. So we give them something more compelling.
Okay, so you help investors have a passive form of investing in a safe and a higher return investment opportunity in mobile homes. Okay, love that. So why did you choose to go to a podcast?
Yeah, and it's such a funny answer that I think about it, is that when it comes to things like branding, social media and stuff, I've learned from a long time ago to not look at the ROI. Not look at the ROI looking forward, look at it looking backwards. So when I started creating content, early in my career, I was in brokerage. I was a real estate broker helping people, buy and sell. And as necessity, I sort of created content to generate attention. And that helped me get a lot of clients, helped me nurture people, just communicate to people that I know what I'm doing and that I'm available if you want some help. And through that, I just tried to do more and more. And I think that at some point I got burnt out. I was posting a lot on Instagram, TikTok before. I got burnt out because the videos were short, kind of meaningless, just like little funny things. But for me, like I've always had really deep thoughts. I am a philosopher by nature, and since I was in my since I was a teenager, I've been writing down thoughts onto a sheet of paper. So, and I'm like, well, why not share some of these thoughts with the world? It might actually be helpful knowledge, and I don't mind giving it away because when you light another candle, it doesn't diminish your light. So for me, I thought to just start my own platform to share knowledge with others. I don't have to wait for people to give me permission, people to invite me on stages. I can just start my own podcast and share the knowledge that I've learned through my years as a person, a investor, entrepreneur, whatever, and also bring on some interesting guests like you, to share what's been working in your journey.
Yeah. Okay, so tell us about your show.
Sure. So it's called The Journey. And the reason I named it that is because nowadays, a lot of people like to look at the accomplishments and the accolades of successful entrepreneurs, and they don't see what goes into it. And you and I both know it is so much pain, so much perseverance, and like so much of everything, right, that goes into the journey to make us who we are today. And I just hope to share some of those things with people to A, set the expectation more clearly, and also B, to give people skills and perspectives to keep going, to try different ways, because as long as you don't give up, then you'll never lose. So, hopefully to inspire other people to keep going on their journey, to show them what's out there and what's possible.
What have been some of the biggest benefits that you've received from running this podcast?
For me, I think it's definitely the relationships. Just getting to know other successful people well, seeing how we can connect each other, uh, bring each other value, like if I can connect you with someone and vice versa, I think that's been a huge benefit. The second one, and why I started the podcast, is actually to get better at creating content in general. Sounds counterintuitive, but I'm a practitioner. I think you get better by doing, and you have to not be afraid to just build in public, right? To keep trying and getting back up. So for me, I get better and better at presenting ideas and getting insights from people, and that's been honestly a very valuable outcome for me.
Yeah. Okay. What's one of the biggest mistakes you've made in your podcasting journey, and what did you learn from it?
Oh, definitely that thinking that podcasting is a one-way route, because I've only been really taking guests up until this point, up until like, I don't know, like last month, I've just been taking guests inbound. I'm like, wait, I should probably get on other people's podcasts, because like, people talk about themselves, but I don't talk about me. So how do people get to know me? So that's the next big push. It's to have my team reach out to folks, see if it's a good platform for me to share my journey and insights on.
Yeah. So have you invited potential investors or potential customers on your show yet? Have you been able to use it as a networking tool to help grow your existing business?
That's a great point, and for now, not yet. I haven't really thought of it in a quote unquote like transactional way. I think it's just more so like, let me get good at this. I reached out to a ton of my peers that I knew were very successful, so I'm like, how did you build this business to this level? And sort of learning that way. But I mean, that is a good idea. I think a lot of our investors are successful entrepreneurs. They're high earnings professionals in their careers. So there's got to be something that's made them successful.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. I've had a lot of guests on the show recently who they see their guests as their greatest monetization tool, right? They take who their ideal customer is they want to sell to, and they invite those guests on their show. Had some guests recently where they tripled their business by launching a podcast and inviting their potential clients as guests on the show. So it seems like that would be appropriate to you, right? If you're working with entrepreneurs who want to invest in mobile home parks, it seems like those would be some ideal customers to then have on your show to share their journeys.
Absolutely. And to what you said before with Russell Brunson, right? He says if you post every single day for a year, then you don't have to worry about money again. And to break that down, it's just really connecting with the right people and having conversations with more of the right people. And a podcast is a great way to do that. I think we're in this mindset of let's share insights, let's figure out how to become better versions of ourselves, how to improve our mindset, our financial house, and our physical house. So people are in a mindset to level up.
What is your secret sauce to podcasting success?
Not taking it too seriously. That is
Yeah.
100% true. I did it the first time around. So I tried podcasting like pre-COVID, during COVID, and it was like very, radio talk show ass. I would prepare all these questions and it seemed unnatural, and it just doesn't give the right content out, and like people are so sensitive to just, slop nowadays, it's like when people hear quality, they tune in, they listen up, because the energy that you put out is very truthful. So that's why it's important when I'm doing these conversations, like it's not scripted. Like I'll have a few key points and sort of see where the conversation goes and see where the curiosity leads to.
Today's episode of Podcasting Secrets is brought to you by Pod Allies, the done-for-you podcasting services solution. When I speak with CEOs about their podcast, one of the most common comments that I hear is that they know they need a podcast, but they don't have time. Have you ever wondered how some businesses find a way to still run their podcasts while juggling their crazy day-to-day operations? The secret might be simpler than you think. Let me introduce you to Pod Allies. This is a service that's changed the game for businesses in the podcasting world. Pod Allies is a done-for-you podcast production and marketing service. They understand that while many businesses understand the immense value podcasting can have for their business, finding time to produce, syndicate, promote, and monetize a show can be challenging. Pod Allies offers a dedicated team to handle virtually all aspects of your podcast production. From strategy and branding to audio and video editing and guest scheduling, they've got you covered. They even take care of creating blog posts, transcripts, and syndicating your content across multiple platforms. What sets Pod Allies apart is their use of PodUp, their proprietary podcasting software suite. This allows them to streamline the entire podcasting process, saving you time, effort, and a bunch of money. If you're ready to become a thought leader, connect with your audience, and grow your business through podcasting without all of the investment of time and cost of doing it yourself, Pod Allies might be the perfect solution for you. To learn more or to schedule a free consultation with a podcast expert, visit podallies.com. That's podallies.com. Now back to the show.
I love that. See where it goes. See where it takes us. Where's the curiosity? Not scripting it, but maybe asking the next question that your audience would ask and want to know the answer to based on the conversation you're having.
Yeah. You're helping your audience explore this guest and helping them learn from this guest instead of having prepared questions.
And you're asking the questions that they would want to know.
Exactly. And that's why, we see this dwindling down from like TV, right? Conventional media, legacy media, like news outlets, like the trust in a news anchor is at all-time lows. Like before in the days of Ron Burgundy, right? When he was playing that, people were like, oh, a news anchor is very authoritative. But now it's like, I don't know, like some random 23-year-old that, throws on a tie and just like goes to the thing and reads off a teleprompter. So it's interesting because social media is much more truthful and people are truth seeking in general.
Yeah. And people are seeking authenticity. They're seeking real conversations, not scripted teleprompter conversations.
Yeah.
Okay, what matters more for growth? Guest quality, consistency, or distribution?
Consistency. It has to be consistency, because if you're not consistent, then what can the audience expect from you? I mean, even if you had like the best audience or like the best guest members, you won't get the best insights from them because you don't have the consistent repetitions to become a better host. And okay, distribution's fine, but when your content gets distributed, then the marketplace will react. If it's a good video, it will naturally get the views. If it's not, then it won't. And you want to get consistent and build up your skills before you get the better guests and the better distribution.
That's really interesting that you said consistency. So when you talk about consistency, you're not just talking about publishing every Tuesday at 10 a.m., right? You're talking about consistent quality. You're talking about consistent messaging, speaking to it consistently to the same audience, having the same consistent authenticity. Am I understanding you correctly?
Exactly. So the more consistent that you can make it, the more clear that your signal is, to the audience. So, you want to help them in as little time as you can, help them understand what you're about, what they can learn from the show, what's in it for them, right? Because we're all in the scrolling society, right? We have like a snap before our attention's on to the next thing. So
I love that. What's in it for them and focusing on what's in it for them, because that's sure what they're asking.
yeah, people are
Okay.
always asking me that. And I think it's foolish to think otherwise. In every single scenario, people are always thinking what's in it for them. And the more that you can answer that for them ahead of time, they'll feel listened to. It's not, it's actually a really, really good, call it sales tactic. I don't know, but it's a great way to just get more out of relationships and interactions.
Yeah, you see some of these episodes podcasters do where it's like 7 steps to do this or how to accomplish this. And it seems like those are focused on what's in it for them, right?
Mm.
What's in it for the audience. You're giving it to them. You're making it very clear what they're going to get out of trading some of their time to consume that episode.
Yeah. And I do think that thankfully, with the help of AI and stuff, it just made the distribution and consistency a lot better to achieve because, before, I mean, think about it this way, right? Writing show notes for a podcast. Before you would have to train up someone like, hey, here's how I do it. Just remember like this, that, and you have to codify it. And now it's just like, hey, you upload the transcripts from, I don't know, 10 of your podcasts, you throw it into AI and just be like, okay, what is a good consistent system that I do? Turn this into an SOP and use the SOP to improve a custom bot that will just make your future output just that much more consistent.
Yeah. I love that, using AI to help you achieve that consistency. And I love your reference to putting in the reps, right? Going back to like fitness, you can't get in shape by going to the gym 3 times, right? You've got to be consistent. You've got to put in the reps, and then over time, you'll achieve those results. That's a great analogy for podcasting. It's not going to happen in 3 episodes.
Yeah. And I think just one thing to add, Nathan, is when it comes to success, it's never one input. The world is more 3-dimensional like that. Even for a person to get muscular or fit, there's 3 components, right? There's lifting weights, there is dieting, and then there's their lifestyle. How much are they sleeping? How do they recover? So, what's the 3-legged bench in what you're trying to achieve, right? Is it, getting the reps in for consistency? Is it guest quality? Is it the distribution, right? And like packaging your content in the right way. So yeah, I mean, think about that. Think of what you want to measure yourself in and what moves your needle forward.
Yeah. Okay. How do you get your guests to open up beyond just surface level answers?
It's a skill acquired through time. Definitely. I think you do that by preparing less. Sometimes, I mean, I say that now, I could change once I learn something else, but I think not having, the must ask 15, 20 questions, that helps a lot. When you hear something interesting, oh, okay, tell me more about that. Okay, so how did you see that apply to yourself in real life? So you have the freedom to explore these ideas.
Sometimes the best question to ask is the hard question. It's the uncomfortable question. Any advice on being able to find and how to ask those kinds of questions?
Oof. It doesn't get easy, but it is a muscle. And if it's a muscle, it can be trained. So you just have to keep asking and keep getting better over time. And I mean, hard questions, tough conversations, they never get easy. It's like doing a cold call. but it does become more natural. You become better equipped to have these conversations.
Okay. So build the muscle, focus on it. Okay.
Definitely.
What role has social media played in amplifying your podcast?
It's helped more people discover it. So if you think about it fundamentally, if someone hasn't heard of your podcast before, why would they invest 30, 45 minutes in you without knowing a thing, right? And the idea of social media is that you put out little teaser clips so that people can have a taste for it. They get a little hit, a little appetizer. They're like, okay, all right, I like this restaurant. I want to come back for more. And then they go order the full meal, which is like the whole episode.
Yeah. Okay, here's a question I get asked all the time. How quickly can I monetize, right? New podcasters ask that question. How quickly do you advise, do you think that people should focus on podcasting before they start monetizing?
So the analogy that I'll give is that you're a plane on a runway. So the faster the plane goes, the quicker it can take flight and the higher it can go. So the question is, how high do you want to fly? And there's definitely a lot of people, the give to ask ratio, right? You have to play with it. It's different for everyone. Some people just never ask, like people like Alex Hormozy, right? Like he's been creating content for years before he started making asks. I think this year was a very big ask year for him. But that was like after, 6 years of creating content with like barely any asks versus like other people. So it just depends on what your goals are, how you want to monetize. But I will also say that don't be afraid to experiment, see what works for you, see what doesn't. And like, I mean, for my social media, like I've definitely like gotten paid and like different things and like gotten monetized somewhat. I mean, it's nice, but you also have to consider like what your goal is at the time.
Yeah, I love Alex Hormozy. I love that you brought him up. He's one of my favorite content creators, my favorite people to consume content from. And
Yeah.
I get so much value from him and what he
Same.
creates. And so
Yep.
as a result, I trust him and I buy stuff from him. I've
Right.
bought 2 of his books from him recently, right? He doesn't have to sell me on anything because he's given me so much value.
That's true. And his book launch, it was apparently somewhat controversial and stuff. But the fact that people just threw $6,000 at him for like 200 copies of a book, right? So people were just itching to like give him money because they're like, oh my god, like you've given me so much value. How can I like repay this somehow? So yeah, I mean, it's a fair deal for a lot of people.
Yeah. What separates podcasters who last from those who burn out?
2 things. 1, unrealistic expectations, and 2, perseverance of your character. I think people that have unrealistic expectations of when they'd be able to monetize or when they would do this and that, then when they face the reality that is not the same as their expectations, then they have a mismatch. They don't feel good. They feel like they failed and maybe they should try something else, right? That's one thing. But then second is that, look, if you don't give up, you can't lose. So a lot of people, they just forget that. And, they choose to stay down and they're like, they get dejected after like it doesn't achieve a certain viewer count or stuff like, things like that. I think the more you can detach yourself from the outcome, the better. Especially when you're starting off, you're figuring out a new venture. You want to focus on your inputs and be proud of your inputs. I will say that it's very important to close your incentive loop because people do things for various reasons, right? There's like positive reinforcement, there's negative reinforcement. So when you do something with positive reinforcement, it's actually stronger than a negative reinforcement. Alex Hormozy says this too. Like if you like, I don't know, hit someone for coming to a meeting late, like they're going to resent you. They're not going to learn, right? And as opposed to like, if they arrive on time, like you tell the entire team like, hey, look at Nathan here. He came here on time. He did the pre-reading. He did everything. Like, what a great job. Here's a gift card or something. Like that person's going to do it that much more. So you have to find a way to give yourself positive reinforcement to close that little habit loop.
I love that. So you have built-in positive reinforcement for yourself in your systems. Can you give us an example of how you do that for yourself?
Yeah, yeah. So it's funny. I vibe coded this little app. It's like a little kitty allowance tracker, and I can give myself money and deduct money for good deeds and bad deeds. So if I do a good deed, like if I did a podcast episode today, all right, I'll give myself $5 or $10, whatever. And hey, look, if I set a time block for editing content or like doing something and I miss it, then I deduct $5 or $10, and then the money in that account I spend it guilt free. Because I think me as an entrepreneur, like I grew up very frugal, and like that's how I run my business. That's kind of my superpower, but that's for another topic. But I find it guilty sometimes to spend money. So this is my way to hack it. It's like, hey, you earned this money, so like go spend it. $20,
Yeah.
go buy yourself Chipotle or something. And I
I,
like that.
yeah, absolutely. I saw a TED talk of a guy, and he was talking about, I think it's called 5 minutes of courage or 10 minutes of courage or something. And one of the best TED talks I've ever heard of. And he does something similar. He has you pick something. And the guy's name is Reg Allen, Redge Allen, phenomenal TED talk. And he's been very successful helping people lose weight and achieve their goals. Has incredibly high success rate helping people do this. And it comes down to these positive and negative outcomes that you're talking about. And so if it's something positive, like he'll pick a destination and say, okay, I want to go to Hawaii. And so he'll create an account for Hawaii. And every time he does something, right, he achieves all of his daily goals, he can put $20 in his Hawaii account, right? And every day he doesn't do, he has to take the same $20, and he takes something that he does not like. So he'll take, like, if he has a favorite college football team, he'll take the arch nemesis, the rival football team, and he'll have to give the $20 to the rival football team and make a donation. So he loses it forever. And it's going to a cause that he really does not want his money to go towards. And,
Like that.
and so he really achieves his success because he does that every day. He's accountable, and he has got these positive and negative rewards built in. So I believe that those really work.
Yeah, I like that. And to that, I will say that money is an abstract concept, and sometimes you want to make it more real, sometimes you want to make it less real, right? To a certain extent, like your money, like your income, your net worth is just like a number on a screen. Like it doesn't mean anything. But when it comes to like reinforcing behavior, like make sure you actually withdraw the cash. You want to feel it as much as you can, engage all your senses, and you're like, okay, this is the direct reward of me doing this time block. And it just helps you get that reinforcement that much better.
Okay, so to bring this down to a podcaster, if I want to be more consistent, like you were talking about, and achieve my goals as a podcaster, maybe I set a goal and say each week that I publish my episode, and I record it and publish it and promote it, whatever the steps are that I set for myself. I will take X amount of money and put it towards something that I really care about. And every day that I don't, or every week that I don't, I take that money and put it towards something where I don't want my money to go. That's so that I have that negative reinforcement. Do you think that's a good idea for podcasters?
Yeah, I think better yet too. What a lot of people they get wrong, like the newbies, right? They're like, oh, should I buy the best podcasting microphone, the best podcasting camera? You could, but you have to earn it. You have to prove to yourself that this camera will not go to waste. I think a lot of people, they just dive in, they spend a few $1,000s on this, and they're all like hyped up, and then they realize it doesn't live up to their expectations, and they're like, oh man, what a waste of money. So
yeah, definitely. Let's earn it. Let's make sure that we're putting in the reps, and that we're paying the price that's necessary for success. Okay, if someone starts a podcast today, what is the single most important principle that they could commit to for the long term to be successful?
Commit to becoming a better person. And I think that when it comes to something with a long tail results, like creating content, making a business, it's very hard to accurately predict your outcome when you're starting off with no context and no execution, right? But if you can commit to yourself that you will become a better person, that's the whole point of this, right? I mean, we become entrepreneurs or content creators because we want to deliver value to the marketplace, and to do that, we have to become a better person ourselves. And as long as you commit to improving yourself, like I have a daily journal. I write down, how did I get 1% better today? And that's something I always ask myself every day.
I love that 1% better goal. Um, that came from a book that told the story of the British cycling team. And they were perennial losers, right? They just never won anything. And they brought on this new manager, coach, and they decided, okay, we're going to get 1% better. And they identified a whole bunch of different areas, like the seat and the sleep of the riders and the nutrition and the hydration and the wheels and whatever. They identified all these different areas they could improve. And they just said, how can we get 1% better in all of those areas? And they did. They focused on, because they could get 1% better, but you get 1% better in 40 different areas of your cycling, and it adds up and it compounds. And some areas you get 5% better or 10% better. And then pretty soon they started winning all these races and becoming this powerhouse. My daughter is a competitive ballroom dancer. She dances on scholarship for the number one collegiate ballroom dance company in America. And when she started dancing, she started later than a lot of her peers started. And so she was way behind. And it was kind of disheartening. You kind of felt like she never could get there because they were always so much better than her. And so we told her that story, that 1% better story about the British cycling team. And we just made her goal of all these competitions, not to win, but just to get 1% better. Every competition, every week, we just kept asking her, how did you get 1% better? And she could do that. She could get 1% better every time. And a lot of times she's like, I got 10% better this time. And you just keep doing that over time, and consistency, like you were talking about, consistently getting 1% better. And she was one of four freshmen that got a scholarship, for one of four freshman girls that got a scholarship to dance on the number one collegiate ballroom dance company in America by focusing on just getting 1% better.
That's amazing.
It works.
And it's such a powerful analogy. I think the one thing I just thought of when you said that is results don't come consistently. They are very clumpy, especially when it comes to what we do in content creation, entrepreneurship. And it's very different from what we're used to back in the corporate world. When we work a day job, we have an input to output, right? Every 2 weeks we get our paycheck, and it's very, very consistent. Versus for here, like you can have maybe it's like 0.1% improvement, 1% improvement, nothing, 10% improvement.
Yeah.
And like
that's right.
your life significantly gets better. And there's just these little juncture points that you won't get to that point if you don't consistently put in the effort.
Yeah. Put in the reps, like you were talking about. Okay, Leo, if our audience has enjoyed this episode a ton, like I have, and they want to get to know more about you and your business and your podcast, what are the best ways for them to do that?
Yeah, so you can reach out to me. I'm on LinkedIn the most, or Instagram. You can find me, Leo Young, Young. You can search me on there. My Instagram handle is @LeoYoungRealEstate, or you can go to my website, leoyoungrealestate.com, or for my company, it's cornellcommunities.com.
Perfect. Thanks for being with us today and sharing so much value, Leo.
Definitely. Thanks for having me on, Nathan. It's been a fun conversation.
And here are my key takeaways from this episode. Number 1, consistency drives podcast growth more than guest quality and distribution combined. Publishing a reliable schedule compounds faster than any other tactic. Number 2, detach from results early and commit to input quality. Showing up consistently matters more than early numbers. Number 3, avoid scripting interviews. Prepare themes or key points, then let curiosity and active listening shape the conversation. Number 4, build habits through positive reinforcement. Reward yourself immediately for completing actions, not for outcomes you cannot control. Number 5, focus on getting 1% better each day. Small daily improvements outperform ambitious goals that collapse under pressure. Number 6, delay monetization. Build skill, trust, and an audience before asking your community to buy. Number 7, invite ideal clients as guests and use the podcast to build long-term relationships, not quick conversations. Number 8, cross-promote with podcasters who already serve your audience. Trading exposure creates faster and more durable growth than just chasing algorithms. Number 9, use AI to document systems. Turn transcripts into standard operating procedures that promote consistency. And finally, number 10, earn equipment upgrades. Prove consistent usage before investing heavily in gear. If you're looking for an amazing all-in-one podcasting platform with more than 60 integrated podcasting tools, you can find that with a free trial at podup.com. And if you know you need a podcast, but you just don't have time, I recommend you visit podallies.com. That's podallies.com, where you can get a free podcast growth and monetization strategy and plan created for you for free. Thanks for joining us for this episode. I wish you success as you turn your passion into profit through podcast monetization.